What's up, everyone? Welcome to Pat's Chat. I am Doug Kyed, joined as always by Michael Hurley. Mike, we just watched the Super Bowl. Big news. I'm a Super Bowl champion. I don't know if you can see that.
Congrats. Whoa.
Got a ring. Yeah, Super Bowl 57.
Where'd you get that?
Kind of a big deal that I've got the very first Super Bowl. You can only know what we're talking about if you're watching on YouTube, which is a fraction of our audience. So sorry about that, guys. I'm wearing a plastic replica Super Bowl 57 ring that I got off cupcakes that I bought at Stop and Shop this afternoon.
It's pretty good.
It's not
I
bad.
thought you got it from like an NFL source or whatever.
No,
It's not bad. Good ring. Congratulations to you.
That'd be pretty funny if this is what the rings looked like. Didn't say anything about the Chiefs or the Eagles.
It was a good game.
Just AFC, NFC Super Bowl champions. But yeah, I'm the first one. I'm the first Super Bowl champion.
The ring just wants both teams to have fun.
I also was wearing for most of the last few days just an eagle hat, a hat
Nice.
with an eagle on it. It's not an Eagles hat.
No.
It's just a completely unrelated hat with an eagle on it.
Yeah.
I thought it would just be kind of a fun hat to wear, but I didn't want to wear it on the show because the Eagles just lost the Super Bowl.
Go
Sorry if you were waiting to watch the Super Bowl
Spoiler alert.
until after you listened to the podcast, but the Eagles lost the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL officials, some might say.
Yeah. Doug, I'm cranky. Just right off the bat. You know, last year for the Super Bowl, Dan Roach, everyone loves Dan Roach, right? He says, Mike, will you do sports final with me? We'll do a Zoom after the game. And I wanted to do like a professional football, like, here's my take on the game. And we get on and I'm like, Dan, the refs kind of ruined it for me. And here I am a year later. And Doug, the refs kind of ruined it for me. It's just the outcome might have been the exact same. And we all would have been fine with it. But because there's a defensive holding penalty called, the first defensive hold of the entire game, on an infraction that wasn't egregious, that required multiple replays to even see, that was probably called because the Eagles actually covered someone running in motion and then breaking back outside. It was flagged, and it ruined the end of the game. And I don't know how to feel good about what we saw because it was an unnecessary call. It was out of the game in which the players were playing, and it ruined. It just took away the ending of what could have been a classic Super Bowl for the second straight year.
It did. It's almost as if the refs were like, that's impossible. There's no way that the Eagles could have covered that play correctly since they boofed
Fair
it
enough.
so hard on 2 straight touchdowns.
Yeah.
They were like, no, there's just no way. It must have been, he must have done something wrong. And like, one of my biggest problems with it was like you said, took multiple replays. Like, I feel like I might have actually seen like an actual hold. Like, I more just saw someone put their arm around someone and like maybe slow them down. I don't know. I mean,
I would say this last year it was Logan Wilson on Cooper Kupp,
right.
and it was by definition defensive holding. But last year that had happened 16 times in the game,
Right.
and it wasn't. This might have been defensive holding,
Right.
might have not been. Still not sure. The fact that you hadn't called it all game, and you've talked to players in the old football locker room. I've talked to players. I forget. I think it was like, I don't want to say Batamosi, but there was a player who was the defensive back in the 2017 season who was like young and very excitable. I'll think of it after I tell the story, but I remember talking to him and he was getting away with a lot of holds and tugs and pulls. And I asked him something along those lines and he was like, yeah, I mean, they weren't calling it. So I played that way. And it's just sort of how every team goes into a game. You don't know how they're going to call it. And when defensive holding is not being called, players play a certain way. And I don't know that holding happened there, but if it did, it was not being called all game until the game was on the line. And it just ruined it. And it's not like, oh, the Eagles got screwed, because again, the Eagles could have got the ball with what, 140 left?
Right.
And maybe they kick a field goal to tie it. Maybe they don't. They probably don't score a touchdown to win, but we don't get to see it. I think it's just unfulfilling as a spectator to see that decided for no reason at all.
Well, and it's not only last year's Super Bowl. Like, this is the same story as the AFC Championship game as well. Like, this is why you were so fired up and cranky after the AFC Championship game as well,
Cranky.
because a flag allowed the Chiefs to kick a field goal and win the game. And I don't know why specifically, but I do kind of feel like the Chiefs deserved this one maybe a little bit more than the AFC Championship game. And like that's a very unscientific immediate post game being like, yeah, well at least they came back and like yes, hand raised.
Eric Rowe. It was Eric Rowe.
Okay, Eric Rowe. I was going to look it up. That makes sense. Eric Rowe usually said a little bit too much than what he should have after games and about most things. So that adds up that it was Eric Rowe who said that. But
Sorry to interrupt.
I do feel like the Chiefs. I wasn't really going anywhere with that, but like just like purely based on vibes after this game, like I don't know. Like obviously the Eagles were able to, score the touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, like make the comeback there. But the Chiefs just dominated so much of that second half that I do feel like they were the better team tonight. But you just don't want it to end once again on a flag and a field goal because it just all feels so very deflating after watching, as you mentioned, such a good game.
Yeah, it just you feel empty, you feel a little cheated. And again, the penalty happened with what? Let me see. Defensive holding happened with a minute and 54 left. So it would have been a lot of time. There was a timeout. There would have been a drive. Philly had been converting third downs all night. I want to say they were, third down. They were 11 for 18 on third down. They were, and plus add in the fourth downs where they were 2 for 2. So they were driving a lot, and it just would have been fun to watch it. I think the Eagles, you say the Chiefs deserved it. I kind of get it because they played a better second half. I think the Eagles deserved the chance to try to tie or win the game just as much. So it's just.
What was up with Jalen Hurts' throw at the end of the game there?
Not a great throw. I don't know that he.
I didn't see a replay.
It went to like the 30, so it was like a 50-yard throw.
Live, it looked like it was like a 32-yard throw. Fell, dropped out of nowhere. I guess. I mean, he's not known for having like the biggest arm or anything like that. I was just a little surprised.
Oh, they were on the 36. I forgot it was a squib kick, so it was about a 30-something.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Ball slipped out, maybe.
There was no plan there. I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Hurts to me at halftime. I was like, man, this is a guy who lost his job in a national championship game and is clearly like, you know what? I am never going to let that happen to me on a big stage again. I'm going to kick ass. And he did.
Oh, yeah. No,
minus the fumble, which was Mahomes-esque. Mahomes did that in the championship game. But unfortunate. He was a monster. Would have liked to see him get a drive at the end. I'm just going to come back to it. And it's like crying over spilt milk.
Right.
But how do you do that 2 years in a row? For anyone that doesn't remember, last year the Rams had a third down, and Logan Wilson, the linebacker, had his arms around Cooper Kupp, kind of had him. Kupp kind of spun himself. It was a pass behind him, so he kind of spun. Right. They throw the flag for defensive holding, first defensive holding of the entire game, which had been a physical game, and the Rams scored the game-winning touchdown after that. This game, defensive holding, game-winning field goal with basically no time left. We'll be back. We'll be watching, but it sucks. There's no other way to say it. It sucks.
Yeah, and it goes back to obviously Roger Goodell's comments this week saying that he feels like officiating has never been better. And I mean, I guess like by his definition, he was probably like, well, that was a flag, so they should have called him that. But it's just like, I don't know, guy. Like, and then add to that, I don't want this to become like an all officiating podcast, even though it is like kind of a fun thing to bitch about. But like the Devontae Smith catch, non-catch was so weird because like seemingly based on the players' reactions to that play, the refs like changed their mind multiple times because first the Chiefs defense went back as if it was going to be called a no catch. Yeah. And then they started coming forward as if it was a catch. And then they went back when it was called a no catch. And I don't know. I mean,
well, Doug, we've
probably not a catch, but
what, Doug? We've talked on this podcast about Kendrick Bourne's catch on Christmas Eve, Patriots Bengals. He has the ball in his hands and he just smushes it into the ground.
Right.
So by that standard, which is still the same standard from the league office, this was a catch. He definitely had both feet. It was about possession, but at that point, if Kendrick Bourne's was a catch, then this is a catch. But at the same time, if Hunter Henry's wasn't a catch, then this wasn't a catch.
It was Pereira who was like the rules analyst tonight, right?
Yeah, it sure was.
I believe he said the ball can move, it just has to stay in his hands. Where does that come from? I've never heard that before in my life.
So yeah, on the Devontae Smith catch, I didn't opine in my own head, like not even like Twitter or anything. I was just like, come what may,
Right.
whatever it may be, I don't know. And anyone that had a strong opinion on that doesn't actually know. And that it was a big story tonight. There was three. There was the Boston Scott catch fumble.
That was insane. That was insane. Like that they ever ruled that a fumble was insane. Like that immediately should have been like, no. We wasted our time. They wasted minutes of our lives determining whether that was a fumble.
Right. Totally agree. And even the review, I saw tweets like, that's a catch. It's not.
Guys, it's not.
Basic. That one has never been a catch. But I didn't know that they were going to rule incomplete. I don't know what they're going to rule at any point because Walt Anderson was a terrible referee, is very old, is bad at his job, is in charge of all this. So I think it's great. I think the league is in great hands in Walt Anderson.
And then Dallas Goedert was the other one.
So he had some ridiculous catches. In that one, he bobbled.
Right.
And then clearly had both feet. And I didn't think it was worth even going to commercial for. And they did. And people were still confused about that. And I don't blame anyone for being confused because, Doug, how do you have any certainty when it comes to what is a catch in the NFL? And how much time did we waste tonight pondering that?
Right. It is to a point of complete absurdity. And I don't know what they can do about it. And the funny thing about the Devontae Smith one too, and I did tweet about this, was that on that play, they didn't show this on all the replays, but on a few of the replays, you can clearly see the defender hit Devontae Smith's arms before the ball comes.
Yes, I didn't want to tweet that.
You're watching a million replays of did he or did he not catch this ball? But you can't look at the fact that he also got interfered with on the play. So you're determining this this part of the play. I don't know. I'm not too tired and too dumb to fully analyze this. But yeah, you are reviewing a point, the end of a play that never should have really technically mattered in the first place if it had been defensive pass interference. And it was pretty bang bang. So if that was called every single play as defensive pass interference, then it might be a little bit absurd. But
that's the point.
when you're looking frame by frame to see whether or not the ball moved an inch on the ground, but you're completely ignoring the fact that a guy karate chopped his arm, granted a split second before the ball came, but that's what we're analyzing here. It's minutia frame by frame. So if we're looking frame by frame and we see him get interfered with, then why does it matter if he dropped the ball at the end of the play? I don't know. But once again, I said this on Twitter, I'm too dumb to figure out what the NFL can do about this because I don't think that you should be reviewing frame by frame on defensive pass interference. And I do think you should be getting calls right, but it's counterintuitive. You can't do one thing and not the other.
Mm-hmm. No. First of all, I thought the same thing. I was afraid to tweet it because when you tweet that, it's a whole thing. But what was it, 3 years ago, they were like, all right, we'll review pass interference. And you could have challenged that. Yeah. And it would be clear pass interference. And they'd be like, no, after review, it was not pass interference. And it was like, excuse me, what? So that was sabotaged by the league so that we never even thought of that again. But it's the great point because did the guy catch the ball? Yep. Did the guy, potentially bobble it here or there? Did it potentially get moved by the ground? Not sure. Did he get interfered with as we watched all these reviews? 100%. But we can't assess that part. So why are we assessing this part? If the game is played at a certain speed, it's just I felt like so much of tonight was spent analyzing what is a catch. And to anyone, this is the ultimate casual fan event. If you're there watching it as a diehard fan, and a casual fan looks at you and says, "What's going on here?" You got to be like, "Don't know,
buddy, strap in."
Yeah, how much time do you? You probably want to watch this commercial with the Scrubs guys or whatever. So I won't explain what a catch is because it was the whole night, and we're being grumpy because the referees. I would rather never talk about them. How is that not the NFL's thing? And then you throw in what Rodgers said last week that it's as good as it's ever been. It's not. Carl Sheffers tonight sounded like he needed at least a Jolt Cola, but maybe something stronger. He sounded like his bedtime was 5 p.m. and he was hurting to stay up late tonight. It was not a good night for the NFL. I think the players on the field and the sport is so good, and the league does all it can to just dump on it, and it sucks.
How has Jolt Cola not made a comeback, by the way?
Yeah,
all, like,
people are into
with the-
caffeine.
Yeah, energy drink obsession right now. Like I drink like 3 of them a day.
I saw at the grocery store like Death Wish coffee. It's like, only drink this if you have huge balls. And I was like,
Calm down.
oh, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy that one.
I've bought the Rocks energy drink a couple times. It's good.
I don't know
It's
that
called
one.
like Zoa. You're a big rock guy.
Oh, the Rock. Sorry.
The
I
Rock.
thought you meant it was called the Rocks.
Oh,
Good
no.
for you. Thanks for supporting my friend Dwayne. In his business ventures.
Your
He needs
buddy
it.
Dwayne. But yeah, so I think one other takeaway, since this is a Patriots podcast, this is like very loosely tied to the Patriots, but there was some hubbub over the week of Patrick Mahomes like talking about catching Tom Brady, all these different things. And like there seemed to be some conversation of whether or not Patrick Mahomes could get 7 Super Bowl wins. I know that Patrick Mahomes has 2 Super Bowl wins and he's only 27 years old. I think it's kind of like I strongly believe he is not going to win 7 Super Bowls. And I
Yeah.
feel like this is going to be more like a LeBron versus Michael Jordan type debate where like you can have the debate even though LeBron has like far fewer championships than Michael Jordan. And like it might kind of be the same thing with Mahomes and Brady. I don't see a single possible way that Mahomes is going to win 7. And there was a comment before the game. Andy Reid told Jay Glazer that like he has to consider
retire.
like he might retire after this game. Like if Andy Reid retires, the Chiefs don't have someone like unless they wanted to promote Eric Bieniemy to head coach, which
Or
I mean,
Spags.
if 31 other teams aren't in a rush to do that, then like I don't know if the Chiefs would. And like Spags, yeah, like I don't think Spags is the right guy to follow up Andy Reid. Like if Andy Reid retires, even in the next 2 to 3 years, then it just becomes that much more difficult for Patrick Mahomes to win 4 or 5 Super Bowls.
Yeah. I don't know. You don't consume a lot of Boston sports media, as you've stated, rather
True, I don't.
proudly.
I'm sure
Rather
has
rudely.
this been talked about like a million times? Probably.
Yeah,
right?
but it was framed in this like, oh, Patriots fans are babies. They're blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I'd rather focus it on Mahomes saying, yeah, you know what? Talk to me when I'm 38 and we'll see because I got so far to go to even
Right.
get in that conversation. It's not worth talking about, which is true because, Doug, football history for you. Patrick Mahomes now has 2 Super Bowls. First of all, awesome job by Patrick Mahomes in the second half. I thought that was
He's the best
I don't
quarterback in the
wanna-
world.
oh, for sure. But I don't want to overdo it. Sometimes people
Right.
do. Like I saw Rich Eisen this week be like, oh, he's got the Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. It's like, well, I mean, a lot of people have won too. Let's cool it. But the way he's
Right.
played through this injury, I think has been incredible. I think that's stories will be written forever and rightfully so. But here's a little, you got to tap into your football knowledge here as a football guy. So he's won 2. So to catch Tom Brady, if that's what we're talking about, he's got to win 7, which 7 minus 2 is 5. How many quarterbacks in the NFL have won 5 Super Bowls?
Right. 1.
Tom Brady.
Yeah,
And
Tom Brady.
so it's like he has to, from
Yeah.
now at the midpoint of his career,
That's a good point.
basically, be better than every quarterback in the history. Which, I mean, honestly, he's good enough to do it. But
Yeah.
just the reality of the sport, the reality of the physicality, the reality of the coaching, the salary cap, he's going to account for what, $50 million for the next 8 years.
Right.
There's a lot working against that being a possibility. So if you're in New England and worried about that, I would postpone. Like, there's a lot of things to worry about in the world. There's like spy balloons getting shot down. There's UFOs. I wouldn't worry about Mahomes passing Brady until at least like 2030. So you have
Right.
7 good years of just chilling.
Well, I would also say that like how old was they're not comparable because clearly Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than the person I'm about to mention. But like Ben Roethlisberger had 2
Yeah.
around the same age that Mahomes is now, like maybe even earlier.
Gotcha.
And
I got you. So they won in 05 and 11.
okay. Okay.
08. Sorry, 08. So he
Yeah.
was 26. Yeah, same
26.
year
26
younger.
for the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't
So
win again.
And he didn't win again. And like,
And I would even add Russell Wilson. Like he won second year,
right.
should have won third year. And that's when I was thinking like he could possibly catch Brady. Hasn't exactly been back.
No.
And might not ever be.
So you need a lot of help and you need other teams to not be as good. And there's a lot of good teams in the AFC right now. And honestly, if I were like making betting odds right now, I'm sure someone's doing that. There's a whole cottage industry around this.
Oh, I won money tonight. I got to tell you about that.
I did too, actually. That I would probably put the Eagles' odds of winning a Super Bowl next year, maybe even above the Chiefs. Like
maybe
the Eagles are going to be pretty much just as good. Like maybe Jason Kelsey retires, but they're going to be a wagon for the next few years.
Can we talk about the Eagles' defense? Because that was distressing to watch. All you have to do is run a little motion in and a little out. Oh my God. The first one was bad. The second one was almost unfathomable.
It's a tough play to cover, though.
No. If you have man or zone, if it's man, it's very simple. Darius Slay in the first one just carried on.
He went all in.
I'm going to blame him on the first one.
He had no doubt whatsoever that was going to be.
Yeah, he was pointing. Yeah. He was like, this is going this way. And then it didn't. The second one, I don't even know what to tell you. I don't know what happened. I know that there was not just space, but like a full circle. The defense almost like faded toward the line and just didn't account for who caught that second one.
Sky Moore.
Oh my God. Well, that was and I had to Google. Shame on me, Doug. I'm a sports guy. Mm-hmm. I know Shane Spikeman. I had to Google the defensive coordinator.
Jonathan Gannon.
Eagles.
He might he might get one of the head coaching jobs.
I hope it's like the Colts because that would fit. I think he'd.
No, I think Steichen's getting the Colts.
I know, but you never know. You never know when.
And then Gannon's getting the Cardinals. That's going to be rough, but yeah.
I would reconsider because that was the freaking Super Bowl's on the line, and you can't even come close to covering the guys that catch the touchdowns that kill you. That was embarrassing.
I think part of it. I think people forget, and I'm not saying that you forget. I think that you're a very smart person.
Thank you.
Like, football is not played from 100 feet above the stadium. Like, players are looking directly at one another. Like, there's impediments in the way. I think that something like very sneaky about that play was that Tony like made his turnaround right behind Travis Kelce. And it was something similar on the Sky Moore play where he made his cutback right behind 11 Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like, I know that you can still see what the guy's doing, but there's like a split second there where you don't because he's behind Travis Kelce. Like, he's behind an individual. And Darius Slay definitely bit way too hard on it. But even if he had bit a little bit less, it still would have been a touchdown. Like,
I would put it like this, though. Remember when the Patriots converted 3 3rd and 10s in Kansas City? Where twice Edelman just motioned in and got behind, I don't know, Hogan or Gronk or someone, and just was able to get a free release and run wherever he wanted. And what happened after the game is Bob Sutton got fired.
It's true.
Because it was embarrassing. And this was that equal level embarrassing where it's just, if you put forth a defense and have some awareness of what the offense might do, that's one thing. I know the Chiefs, and it's not to discredit, I think Andy Reid is a brilliant offensive mind. There were plays where Jerick McKinnon was the fullback and Sky Moore was the tailback. You don't know how to defend these things. I get it. But man, in the Super Bowl to just fail that spectacularly, and shame on us for focusing on the refs to start because it's not even a consideration if you can just play decent defense in those situations.
First of all, we should talk about the field because that was my other note. But Jerick McKinnon, like you mentioned him, so I'm going to go on one of my mini rants. Jerick McKinnon was drafted in 2014. Like, you have to do some Brandon Cooks math on Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon is 30. He was drafted in 2014, which was 9 years ago. Like, he wasn't, I guess, that young when he got drafted, but like, Jerick McKinnon's career is so bizarre that at some point during the week, he was asked about being teammates with Mike Kafka. I was like, Jerick McKinnon was teammates with Mike Kafka? Like, what in the world? He was also teammates with Greg Jennings. He was teammates with Christian Ponder and Matt Castle. He was teammates with Sean Hill. Like, I don't know. Obviously, since he just disappeared for like 3 years due to injury, it makes sense that, like, I guess he'd be playing longer than you'd think of it. But it's just weird. His career resurgence this year has been kind of fun to watch.
Don't forget Matt Asiata.
Yeah, got to include Matt Asiata.
I don't have a Jerick McKinnon thought in the hopper. So
Brian Robeson.
I'll jump to the field because you went on the field after Super Bowl 49. I take it, right?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That was a neon. That was like a, what's that? Hypercolor. What did they call that in the 80s?
Spray paint.
It was a spray painted field. It was like a neon green field.
The Malcolm Butler Super Bowl, as everyone knows it, I went on the field. I had black shoes on, and I looked down at one point, and my shoes were just green. The whole soles were green. The tops were green. And I said, that's strange. Grass usually doesn't do that. And it was just spray painted. There was almost no grass. It was just like sort of a hard dirt and no depth to it. And I think that's what we saw tonight. Yeah. And it's just shocking because the Cardinals played an entire season there.
Right.
Now, granted, Kyler Murray tore his ACL on Monday Night Football. It wasn't great.
It's true.
But from what I understand, it was a real football field. For the fact that the NFL put $800,000 into building.
That's the thing about it.
You know how much good they could have done with $800,000? Like if they just donated that to literally anything, or if they put $800,000 on the Coyotes to beat the Jets on a Thursday night, that would have been better for society than whatever they put in the field, because it was dangerous. People were falling. There was plays where I think it was a Pacheco run where I'm like, why did he just go down? And then they showed the replay. It's because his foot was going to the sideline while he's trying to run up the field. That is a problem.
Well, first of all, like, they brag so much about the system that they use in Arizona, where like you can move the field outside to get sunlight and all this like garbage. It's still like, you're trying to grow grass in Arizona. I feel like that's maybe not the greatest idea. Like, granted, turf, I know no one likes turf for good reason, but like Arizona grass. But then also, I don't think you should be allowed to paint a turf green. I feel like we need to see the flaws. We need to like you can't put makeup on a pig. What's that?
Lipstick
on a pig. That's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to put lipstick on a pig. Or like, if they didn't spray paint that field, you'd be like, why is the Super Bowl being played on this brown dirt field?
Yes.
But because they can spray paint it, they've tricked us all into thinking that it's actual grass. It's pretty dumb. It's pretty bad.
I want to get an exclusive for our YouTube viewers, because like the jerseys of the Patriots when they played there were electric green. I'm not getting a good image, so you're gonna have to just wait on that. But and I don't know, some people are like, oh, well, you wanted grass, this is what you get. And it's like, that's not how it works. This is not grass. I don't think there was any grass on the field. I think there was a grass-like substance, and there was a lot of paint.
Well, I remember being confused after that game, the Super Bowl 49. I've got a picture of Vince Wilfork here. It's a bad one, but he's got a bright green belly.
Can't see it on the YouTube, unfortunately.
Damn. But yeah, I remember thinking
one of Brady's back. Like, can you see?
No, that's
nope. Can't see it on the YouTube.
You know what? How about this?
This is how the NFL wins.
How about Jermaine Kearse with green numbers? Those should be gray numbers. They're green instead. But I remember thinking,
Brian Stork rocking the green armpit. You can't
after the game being like, oh, like one of the end zones must have been like painted green or something. Like, I don't know where all this green is coming from. And then like, I don't think I ever had a second thought about it. But yeah, no, the field was just straight up spray painted green. And the images from that game were very unique because it is such a bright green that I think I always assumed that it was turf, like almost like an AstroTurf. But no, I want to say something else. Travis Kelce. I generally think that Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce are like funny guys. I don't listen to their podcast, but I see enough of the clips where I'm like, oh, what they're saying is pretty entertaining. Super Bowl 55, was it? 54? What was the Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl? 54? Whatever it was.
Yes,
the Chiefs Bucks. Chiefs 49ers. Before that game, probably remember it. You might remember it. Scott Zolak went on a Twitter tirade about Travis Kelce, And I asked Travis Kelce about some of the comments that Scott Zolak made before the game. And he was like very nice about it. I was like, he could be a total asshole about this. And he wasn't. So my personal interactions with Travis Kelce have been good. Travis Kelce has turned his enthusiasm up maybe a little bit too high over the last couple weeks. And him saying after the game that no one had picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl was just, I mean, like, I know that there were some comments made after they traded Tyreek Hill. I didn't personally have them as like my Super Bowl winner or anything like that. But I know for a fact that people before the season thought the Chiefs could win the Super Bowl. And even heading into this week, I believe the Chiefs could win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element. Like, I always think back to, like, 03 Rodney Harrison in the sling was like, nobody said we could do it. Nobody believed in us. And it's like,
you guys went like 14-2 or whatever it was.
But you understand that where the inspiration part comes from. But then in 04, Harrison, I believe, said the same thing. And it was like, Rodney, it's really not working anymore. And I think that's where we're at with Travis Kelce after they win.
The whole mayor thing, too, Cincinnati. Yeah. It's just been a lot.
I mean, well, whatever. That's fine. But, like, they were a 1.5 point underdog. It's not as if it was a lopsided 7-6 point underdog. And it was a game where, realistically, a lot of things had to go right for the Chiefs, including Jalen Hurts just pooping a ball away and giving them a touchdown. So it's not as if anyone who doubted them is an idiot. It's just that, you know, anyone that picked the Eagles probably was like, Chiefs could definitely win. Right. But that second part probably wasn't heard. But yeah, none of y'all said we could win this. It's like, I mean, you were third in Super Bowl odds before the season.
And the Eagles were like 7th, 8th, 10th, something like that. They were like way lower.
Yeah, they weren't in the top 5. It was Bills, Bucks, Chiefs. Yeah. Ahead of the Rams, who won it last year.
Right.
So yeah, I just think a part of that is just sort of the mantra of any team that wins. But it's definitely, I mean, I think I would like to think if it was the modern Twitter era, Rodney Harrison would get called out for being a buffoon back then. No, then it's only fair to do the same now.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I made my first legal bet in Massachusetts.
Yeah, me too.
And my bet was that Patrick Mahomes would win the Super Bowl MVP. And,
did he get it? Good for him.
And he got it. Good for me, actually. That's why I've got the Super Bowl ring, because I won my first legal bet in Massachusetts. I might be done. I'm going to go out on top. This is the last one. I'm good.
Good. I have a question. Mahomes is the Super Bowl MVP with 182 yards.
I know.
That has got to be the fewest since. You got a question? You got an answer? You got a guess?
I have.
My assumption is Tom Brady in Super Bowl 36. He only had 100 and sorry. He only had 145 yards that game. So that's got to be. And that was just the last drive. I contend Ty Law deserved the Super Bowl MVP that year, but that's not there.
I mean, like, obviously, I don't know if this is obvious. I think Mahomes deserved it, if only just because no one else deserved it more. Like, you could almost make a case for Kadarius Toney, because
that was huge
catch and the massive punt return.
Doug,
but that's all he did, so you can't give it to him based on that.
When that punt was in the air, were you like me? I was like, oh man. I was like making noises. My wife was like, shut up, trying to live a life here. And I was like, just wait. And it was like the easiest. Again, not to discredit, but it was like, as the punt was in the air, you're like, yeah, that's coming back pretty far.
Right. No, I had a pretty good idea of that as well. And I don't know. Like, who would have been, I guess Kelce would have been up there for Super Bowl MVP, but he would have had to catch 2 touchdowns. Nick Bolton had the touchdown. So
he had 9 tackles.
Quite honestly,
that would have been tough to give a guy an MVP for a touchdown and 9 tackles. That doesn't really. Well, he did have 9 tackles.
Well, he did have one assist. So yeah, like, honestly, Jalen Hurts was probably the best player in the game.
He was awesome.
But you can't give the Super Bowl MVP to the losing quarterback.
He had 4 touchdowns.
Just can't do it. I know.
Someone did win. Someone that got inducted into the Hall of Fame the other night was the last player to win MVP for a losing
That is
team.
So stupid, though. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine being like, you just lost the Super Bowl, and they're like, oh, we have an MVP for you. Like, what the hell do I? What do I need this for? This is insane. This is absurd.
Yeah. There's been a few. I know you're a hockey guy. There's been a few Conn Smythe winners where it's like the MVP of the playoffs that win, but they win. But that's different. But I won. Do you want to know where I won my money?
Where?
I put $10. I sprinkled various $10 bets. $10 on exactly 2 sacks. It was plus 800.
Wow.
I won $80 on that.
Nice.
Just like the numbers. I didn't
you
really
just,
do
you
any
just
math.
knew. No, it's your expertise. You knew.
I looked
well,
at
both
the
offensive
odds.
lines were really good.
Yeah, I figured they'd get rid of it, and they sure did. I don't think the kneel downs at the end, none of those were a sack because he went down. So I'm looking at the book now. No sacks. 2 sacks for Hurts, where they were like a half a yard both times where he's running out of bounds, but they count. So that's money in my book. And then I accidentally, I didn't read the odds right. I was kind of uncomfortable at the little sports book in the parking garage situation. Mahomes' longest run being over 9.5 yards. It only won me $8 on a $10 bet. So wasn't a big one, but I did pull it off because I'm a genius. I knew he'd run on that busted ankle. Yep. So I'm up. I might retire from sports betting before it goes the other way because we all know it only goes one way. And it's
I'm usually not like for something that should be like 50-50. I'd say that like I don't bet a lot, honestly, which is I know might not be popular in today's day. I really do like DraftKings more than anything. Even more than fantasy.
Daily fantasy?
Yeah. I do on individual games. So I won more money on that tonight because I'm a genius. But yeah.
I had Pacheco first touchdown. That would have won big bucks. But you know what would have hurt, actually? Who was the Eagles player that
Gainwell
almost scored a touchdown?
Yeah.
That was plus 1,400. He didn't score by a good 2 inches maybe. So that anyone that had that for the first touchdown, like even if you throw $50 on that, that's a big payday, and you missed. I'm sorry.
Do you think
sports gambling is a bad idea? Don't do it.
Juwan Bentley tweeted earlier in the game.
What do you mean by that?
They should change the QB sneak rules. I think he doesn't believe that everyone should be able to push and pull the quarterback forward.
Okay. So what do we do? Yeah, isn't that technically a rule though?
I think it is. So I think that he's saying that they should enforce it rather than there should be a new rule. I was gonna ask you, do you think that's gonna be an emphasis, one of those classic emphases, the emphasize
maybe
emphases,
St. Francis of Assisi,
this offseason because
it's easy to enforce. It's very clear when guys get pushed, but
yeah, I guess it's easy to enforce. But there's so many bodies down there. They're clearly there's a reason why they're not enforcing it because technically I believe it is a rule. Yeah. So maybe it's just too hard for them to be looking in there and being oh, that guy's pushing that guy's pulling that guy, whatever it is. But clearly the Eagles had it mastered this season.
Right. Yeah.
To the point where I feel like they should have done it even more than they did.
And you saw the third one, I want to say, where Chris Jones just was screw this, I'm going over the line.
Right.
And he got Hurts, but then had no leverage, so got pushed back. So I get it. But at the same time, Doug, isn't that an overreaction to a team executing it well?
Yeah, I agree.
Because I've seen guys stuff as much as I've seen them convert on 3rd and 1.
My cat just really wants to be on the podcast right now.
Is that Harambe?
Yeah, it's Harambe.
Nice. Yeah. The cat's looking fierce. I would say it's an overreaction, and I get it from a defensive guy. I'm not saying defensive guy is wrong, but I just think there are ways to stop it. Maybe the Eagles are just the best at it. So I'm not going to change the rules to harm the best team at quarterback sneaks.
Yeah, I don't think they should change it because I think it's also kind of fun having a team and I think that teams could learn from it. I don't think there's necessarily why shouldn't teams be able to do that? I don't think it's a player safety issue, right?
Well, because if you have the ball and I'm held up by you, I'm on offense, you're on defense, and you wrap me up, all of your buddies can come and push me back.
Right.
So why can't my buddies push me forward? There was a play early in the game. It might have been Pacheco. I think it was a Pacheco run. If not, it might have been McKinnon. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Where he was pushing the pile, and they blew the whistle as he's still moving forward. And then he fell forward like 3 more yards, but the ball had been blown dead for forward progress like 4 yards prior
Yeah.
when he was still making forward progress. There's a lot of things I don't understand about the game. Clearly, I need to go study the rule book.
Yeah, no. And apparently, even if the rule book says one thing, then
Yeah.
they just might choose not to enforce it because it's fun.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes injured his ankle again in this game,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, if that had been bad, if that had been like, God forbid, like a break or like a
Mm-hmm.
high ankle sprain, like if he could not have returned to that game, what happens with the field situation at that point? Like, do you think that there would actually be like a crackdown on fields, or because like something would have had to come out of that, right?
Do you think that was the field? I thought he got kind of rolled on, but
I
I
think
don't
that
know.
it probably wasn't the field, but I think that if it had been
Yeah.
bad enough, they probably could have blamed it on the field.
Possibly.
It didn't look that bad from the replay. I know that
It
I'm
didn't look
not like,
great.
I'm not denying that it happened, but like usually you see an ankle go like sideways. I couldn't actually even on the replay. It looked like both of his ankles went sideways, so I couldn't actually even tell which one like got hurt based on the replay.
I think it's a pain. I mean, from what I've learned about high ankle sprains in the past, even what is it, February, 5 months since Mac Jones had his, it seems extremely painful. So for
Yeah.
Mahomes to even be out there, I think it's what I feared in the AFC Championship game, where there was going to be certain movements and certain bending and certain discomfort that you can't get in practice and you never would get in practice that would spring up. So that's what I think that was more than anything. I just think if we had to see Chad Henne in that second half, as disappointed as I was in the officials taking away the end of the game, I would have been doubly cranky. So I'm glad Patrick Mahomes
Definitely.
had a gutsy performance. I think it's a hell of a, you know, if we're the Pats Chat podcast, what do we look at for gutsiest playout? Like Brady in Pittsburgh in 04 had a 102 fever or whatever, played the game of his life, won the Super Bowl the first time on a high ankle sprain. But for Mahomes, I think that 2-game stretch with the high ankle sprain, that's all time. I think that's all time. You can write books
Yeah.
about that. You got plenty to work with there with the NFL films to build that legend.
And they'll probably
rightfully so.
exaggerate it too. You know, they'll say that.
Yeah,
like,
I
it
mean,
was
that's
a
part of it. That's certainly part of
third
it.
degree ligament tear or whatever it is. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get the WebMD 3D model, but
Right.
no, I mean, how can you not appreciate that from a because I don't think was known as a gutsy tough guy.
Right.
I don't think prior to this year. Maybe I think he built that and similarly, that offense is not the high flying offense that it used to be.
No.
In terms of talent, in terms of just with Tyreek Hill departure, they are him. He is the offense, or I guess as the kids say, he is him. But they are him. The offense is him.
It's him and Kelsey and Andy Reid.
Now,
who might retire? Who might retire?
Yeah. So now we get into the main topic. Mahomes is the GOAT. Andy Reid has passed Bill Belichick. The Chiefs dynasty has now surpassed the Patriots. This is all I heard on the radio this week, so it's unfortunate.
Is this a preview of the of Adam Jones' rant?
Yeah, 6 does
2 to 6.
2 does equal 6. 2 to 6 program. 2 equals 6.
Yeah.
So that's how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
I just think that was like a media thing. I saw a couple things like if Mahomes wins, he's the GOAT, and it's kind of like, well, I mean, imagine if a quarterback won 2 Super Bowls. That'd be amazing. I feel like it's really caught in the moment situation.
No, it is, and like I think that like talent wise, like skills wise, like when he came into the league, and he was better than Brady when he came into the league, and like if you're building a quarterback, you'd prefer to have Patrick Mahomes rather than Tom Brady, but accomplishments are a big thing when you're determining who is the best of all time, and Tom Brady has the accomplishments. And I don't know, like I do think that like there's going to be a certain subset of people who believe that Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom Brady and is like the better all-time quarterback. I don't know where this puts Patrick Mahomes like all time. I think it's just like way too early to have all these conversations because he's not going to retire tomorrow. He's 27 years old. We have a lot of time to talk about all those different things. Was there any other lingering thoughts for you on the Super Bowl alone?
I really enjoyed watching the Eagles I think they are a spectacular watch. I think the fact that they always go for it on fourth down, even when, so there was a 3rd and 7 before halftime. It's kind of late in the second quarter, but not before halftime. And they ran it up the gut because you know how they are. They're like, well, we got 2 plays. And they gained like 2 yards, so it's 4th and 5. And it's like, all right, well, you got to punt. And they didn't. And that's when Jalen Hurts had his run where he like escaped a would-be tackler by a half an inch and turned into a 40-yard run. It's like, this is fun. I don't know that there's any downside from a viewership standpoint of a coach who hates punting and kicking field goals. I think
I like Sirianni a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It killed him. I tweeted a couple times. Like, it must have killed him to settle for a field goal before halftime.
Right.
And then when it was, 4th and 7 and they had to kick another one,
yeah.
which technically could have kind of cost them the game.
Right.
But it was the obvious decision. Yeah. But they were a fun, spectacular watch. A lot of talent at receiver. I think Dallas Goedert had the catch of the game, and not even the controversial. It was his first one.
Yeah.
Where Justin Reed was like in between him and the quarterback, and somehow he caught it. There was just a lot of fun plays, a fun team to watch. I would have actually liked to see them win the Super Bowl because of how fun they were, but sports are sports, and they didn't.
And
you never know, though. You never know.
You don't. I think Sirianni's good. Like, losing Spikeman, hurts on offense, no pun intended. But the fact that Sirianni called plays last year, handed those play calling duties over to Steichen this year, like, he could call plays again next year. Might not be the biggest loss, since I think they like their quarterbacks coach a lot there as well. Defensively, losing Jonathan Gannon should hurt, but they should also cover wide receivers near the goal line. That should be an important part of the game. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything. Early in the game, when Jalen Hurts was just like, I'm going to throw this ball as far as I possibly can to a double-covered A.J. Brown. And who was that? Was it Trent McDuffie, the Chiefs quarterback?
Was it O.J. McDuffie?
Oh, it might be O.J. McDuffie. I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Fair enough.
He just like decided to like run a different way.
O.J. McDuffie retired in 2000.
Like the Dolphins wide receiver, O.J. McDuffie?
I don't know where that was, Doug.
He played with Jerick McKinnon, too.
He retired when I was 14. I apologize for my O.J. McDuffie reference, but I don't. It was pretty good.
But McDuffie, after that play, I was like, this could be a long game for the Chiefs defense, because I just kind of glossed over, I think, before this game. Like, the Chiefs have a young, inexperienced secondary, but overall their pass defense has been pretty good this year. They'll probably be fine. And after that play, I was like, yikes, I don't know. Yeah. They might not be fine. But then Jalen Hurts tried to throw a 50-50 ball to a double-covered. I guess that would not be a 50-50. That would be like a 33-67 ball to A.J. Brown, like in the next quarter. Yeah. And it didn't go well at all, and it was almost picked off. And after that, I was like, no, they'll probably be fine, actually. Like, this might not be that big of an issue.
Yeah, I got to say, imagine being dumb enough to take Trent McDuffie when you could have had Cole Strange. So, no, you're right. And if not for the fumble touchdown after that, because that made it 14-7.
Right.
And then if it wasn't a 3-and-out, it was like a first down and then a punt. The Eagles got the ball back pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Had they scored there, I don't think you ever put the Chiefs away.
Right.
But you make that climb that much harder. So that defensive touchdown was really, I think, it's too stupid to be like, that's where they lost the game. But if not for that, I think the climb would have been so steep for Kansas City that it would have been tough. And you look at the Chiefs' possessions before halftime, it was a touchdown. They missed the field goal, which I called, by the way, because Butker had to kick it off the corner of the multicolored Super Bowl logo, which messes with guys. That'll mess with you.
That was only like a 42-yard kick also, right?
Yeah, it wasn't great. But then they punted, and that was their 4 first half possessions. It felt like they had the ball for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Second half, touchdown, field goal. So
a lot better.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When we did the whole official thing, the last drive was going to end in a field goal. That's not the issue.
Right.
It's that I think the world deserved a final minute and 45 seconds of football.
Credit to the Eagles, by the way, of like just being like, we're not going to tackle you, Jerick McKinnon. You were going to run in the end zone, and he almost did. Greg Olsen was like screaming at him from the broadcast booth.
He's gotta get down.
He was like, "Get down!"
Credit to Greg Olsen, though. I've been tough on Greg Olsen.
Yeah.
the defensive holding, he was like, I don't think that's defensive holding. And Pereira came in and was
Yeah.
like, well, we got to see the whole thing. And Olsen's like, yeah, buddy, that wasn't defensive holding.
No.
So credit to Greg Olsen in that moment. Maybe we, as like random people at home tweeting and whatever, it's got to be kind of hard to be like, to call the Super Bowl defining play not a penalty.
Yeah.
That's got to be pretty bold. So good on Greg Olsen for that one.
I didn't think it was the strongest game from Kevin Burkhardt. I
Well-
I also don't know that much about Kevin Burkhardt, to be honest with you, because obviously he was just like the number 2 at Fox for a long time. Since the Patriots typically play on CBS, we in New England are typically getting the number 1 Fox team. So we were watching Joe Buck and Troy Aikman a lot more than Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen or whoever it was. But I don't know. I would just say that like listening to Kevin Burkhardt today didn't necessarily like scream like this is the number 1 play-by-play guy on a major network.
Yeah, there wasn't the big game feel, as they say. It was. It felt like a Sunday at 1 p.m. in September, where the sun is kind of like just too strong, and it's not good vibes. He also had when Chris Jones clearly jumped off sides, was like, well, all right, well, let's see who jumped first, and it was like, well, Kevin, we don't need to know who jumped. Like, we saw it; it was a defensive offside. So, I mean that happens, but it definitely lacked the Super Bowl Sunday appeal that you generally have from your number 1 team. So that got me thinking, like, all right, let's say Brady goes and is great. Still doesn't really get Fox to where they want to be, I don't think.
No. Well, I don't specifically remember the Chris Jones one, but there was a play where Josh Sweat was like in the backfield when the ball was snapped. He was like almost tackling Patrick Mahomes. And yeah, Kevin Burkhardt was like, maybe someone moved, because there was a flag on the play. It was like, maybe someone moved. Josh Sweat was like breathing down Patrick Mahomes' neck when he was waiting for the ball to be snapped. And then he also said that Josh Sweat like read the snap, like knew the snap count. He's like, no, he didn't. He knew like 3 seconds prior to the snap count.
He also said there was a flag when it was a mouthpiece, which can happen. I will. I mean, let's not nitpick, but I would just say the overall feel was just sort of Sunday at 1 p.m. Right. It was a Sunday 1 p.m. It wasn't ideal. I mean, like, there should be a provision for Buck and Aikman to do the Fox Super Bowl, even though they're on ESPN. Yeah.
They should still get to do it. There was like an officiate. Oh, it was when it was on the Goddard catch. The Eagles were allowed like 3 minutes to decide whether they would throw the challenge flag or not.
You mean
do you
the
remember
Chiefs?
this? Yeah, the Chiefs. Yeah, I should say the Chiefs.
Yeah, because there was basically a delay,
right?
And then Sheffers, after an hour, was like, "Oh, we screwed up. So here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna go ahead and we're just gonna run the play again. Sorry for holding up your night. Just fading." It was like, what? Like, snap to it, Carl Sheffers. But yeah, they did get extra time. They ended up losing the challenge, so I guess
which so it ultimately didn't matter. But yeah, that was weird. So Patriots wise, there was a Pat's chat. This is Pat's chat. After our 53.5 minute preamble, we'll get to the Patriots here. Robert Kraft had a bit of a media tour this week. I saw that he was on a few different shows. I
watched his Fox Business appearance. That was interesting. Tough interview.
Was there anything that really caught your ear?
I mean, he was asked like the Brady stuff, and he just loves Tom Brady, not news. I guess you could say he backed off the 1-day contract, but he was right. He was like, I was asked if I would do it, and I said, of course I would. Right. Whatever Tom wants. So I get that. And then the guy asked him, Would you make any overtures to Tom to play next year? And that at which point Kraft said, we have a great young quarterback in Mac Jones, which you can't answer. You can't talk to Tom Brady until March 15th or whatever it might be. So, excuse me. I didn't get a ton out of it other than, they talked ownership and business and stuff. It was Fox business. And he said, I'll never sell the team. The plan is to have it in the family for decades to come. So I would think that's a good thing.
I think they're in pretty good hands with Jonathan Kraft.
Jonathan isn't like it's not like he's just there and is ready to
No.
take it on. Jonathan has been hands-on and
Yeah.
involved for 25 years.
Well, he's
I don't
also
even
not
know
like
how long.
it's not like he's like Jim Irsay. It's not like he's like a loose
Yes,
cannon
yes.
who's gonna be taking over the team or anything like that. Like,
I was gonna say Stephen Jones, but like I think Stephen Jones is why the Cowboys are okay.
yeah,
So I probably shouldn't say that.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean he has been active and hands-on and involved, and probably is doing more as the years go on. Than
right. He's probably taking on more and more
right.
responsibilities. So,
So I
yeah.
guess that's the news that it will be a Kraft organization for the foreseeable future.
Did you find it interesting that there weren't many Patriots players on Radio Row this year? I think Nicole Yang of the Boston Globe pointed that out. That like other teams had like multiple players on Radio Row, and we didn't really hear anything from Patriots players this week.
Malcolm Butler, technically a Patriot.
I know. Well, I was gonna say
Uh,
Malcolm Butler. I don't know if he got released,
he
right?
was
So he's
released,
technically not,
but he was on the
it was
Patriots
his last
year.
team. Yeah, the
Um,
Malcolm Butler media tour was kind of weird because there wasn't really anything new that came out of that.
Yeah, I would say if you're going to promote a documentary and book, you should write the book and do the documentary so that you might have a release date rather than be like, yeah, I'm doing one.
Well,
And then it's
he said maybe 2015,
2025.
in the past, 2025. Like
Yeah.
that. I know that that's only 2 years away, but that
Yeah.
feels like it's in such the distant future, like
Doug.
the far future, that like you can't talk about something coming out in 2025. That's absurd.
Give me 2 weeks, I'll make you a documentary. Like it won't be the best documentary, but I could do it. Give me 2 months, it'll be all right. Give me 6 months, we're cooking. 2 years out means like we haven't even sat down to think about it yet, which even still with that, give me 6 months, we can make it happen. So yeah,
Well,
I'm not
especially
sure.
since- yeah.
I'm distracted from your question. No, I mean, who wants to be heard from? Who does America want to hear from the Patriots?
Well, I did want to eventually get to Malcolm Butler, so I'm glad you took that turn. It's a good Mac Jones. Mac Jones.
Boring interview. We know that. It's by design. I'm not insulting him. He
Right.
chooses to do. He's been working out. You see the tweets? He's exercising. Good for him.
Jacoby Myers, he's gonna be a free agent, a top wide receiver free agent, and he's actually he's a guy who says some things.
Yeah, but he's He's too grounded to be good on Radio Row, I think.
I think he would have said at least one or two things
Okay.
that would have been like, "Oh, he said that." Because like,
So why were they not there? Like
I don't know.
they weren't marketable. No
Maybe.
companies approached them to sell Oreos or whatever.
That probably, and like maybe that speaks to a larger issue that we can't get to in a matter of like 2 or 3 minutes. But I do think that the Patriots need maybe some higher profile players, and
Could use,
to become higher profile. I think the best path to that is being good. I feel like the Patriots lack elite talent on their team that would lead someone to being a desirable pitcher for a product pitcher.
Yeah.
I don't know. You hear a lot more about the Patriots of the past. Like you hear a lot more, and obviously you would because they're a dynasty. But like you still hear so much about Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski, all these different guys.
True.
And you're just not hearing a lot about current Patriots.
Should have kept him. Should have kept those guys.
Should have kept Julian Edelman. That was a big.
Well, they did keep him, but the other two should have kept them.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I do think you're right. It comes with winning. It's, but I mean, they used to go to the Super Bowl all the time, so they weren't at Radio Row. So there's a double-edged sword
the
there.
McCourties weren't there this year, though, too. I feel like, right?
Yeah, the Good Morning Football was in New York, from what I saw.
Interesting.
Maybe because of the time change, they might have learned from LA not to go west. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I only caught it once this week, but it was like Thursday, and they were in New York, and I found that interesting. But I don't know, Doug. I think you're right. I think if they were more successful, but even then, it's like, who did I see? I saw Debo do an interview. Right. I might have seen Christian McCaffrey. So the
there's
Niners
just too many
were
guys.
represented.
They're probably smart to not go. There's too many guys. Too many guys say things. Too many guys. Like there's too much content being produced at the Super Bowl. I don't know.
I guess so. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, they lack the star power. They could use maybe like a guy who could go out and catch a deep ball against double coverage, where you just throw it and he catches it. So I think that's going to be a useful addition if they could find someone like that. Since
we last spoke, I went on a rant about how Disney needed a Grogu show for kids.
Yeah.
Since we talked about this, it was announced that Star Wars is doing a kids show, but Grogu isn't even on it. There's no Grogu. It's old Yoda. You think kids like old Yoda? Crusty old Yoda? No. They like baby Yoda.
Wow. No, I think that's just so they don't get caught stealing your idea.
True.
But maybe in
That's a good point.
time, old Yoda will birth baby Yoda somehow. It'll be a whole thing. It'll be like a...
Is that going to be how it's revealed how baby Yoda came to be on a Disney Junior show about Star Wars?
It's going to be real weird. I'll tell you that much. I didn't know that. Good. I mean, they stole your idea.
They basically.
I do like, this isn't a Disney podcast, but you know, the last Disney movie, Strange World, didn't do very well.
Right.
Bad marketing. Like I didn't even know what it was about until
Yeah.
I saw it. And I still don't really know what it's about. Lightyear
I'm
came
there
out
with
like
you.
during the pandemic. Wasn't
Yeah.
really like a great movie. So then they get the old CEO in and he's just like, Toy Story 5, Frozen 3, and Zootopia 2. Everyone look at me. I'm a genius. And it's like, that's probably going to work. Not going to lie. It's kind of like football fans. Like, oh, you didn't enjoy the Super Bowl? How about the next season? And that's how we'll be. We'll be back.
First of all, since we're talking about Toy Story 5, please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. Do all those good things. Leave a 5-star review. Tell us your favorite Toy Story movie.
Dude, 4 was so good.
I
4 ended the saga
I
so
didn't-
well.
No, 3 did. 3 ended the saga
3
so well.
was a little bit too much for me.
4 was unnecessary. They did not need to do 4. And 5 is absurd. It's insane. You can't
I'm
do
against
5.
5.
I'm
I'm
so
anti-5.
against 5. I was anti-4. I'm so much more anti-5 now. And like, honestly, I guess like if you show kids Toy Story, they still like it and everything like that. But like, and adults are going to like it. It's probably going to be made for adults, everything like that. But like Toy Story 5, to like,
That's
I'm
a
thinking
lot.
about my youngest daughter, like she's 1.5. We haven't shown her the Toy Story movies yet. Like if you're like a 5 or 6-year-old, you're not going to start at Toy Story. I don't know. Toy Story
It's a lot.
5?
It's a lot of commitment.
It's too many
And-
Toy Stories.
Not to really but like Frozen 2 was great. Frozen
Yeah.
2 was great. You don't need more. I don't know why you'd want to, unless you want to make billions of dollars, which is how these people think. So good for them.
Yeah.
They
Don't know
tried
where
some different
Zootopia
movies.
2 goes. I don't know.
I mean, Zootopia was good.
It was Olivia.
It really addressed. It was a fun movie for a while, and then it addressed like societal racism, and you're like, oh, this movie's different than I was expecting. Like, oh, we're going like prey versus predators versus like innate
Right.
nature. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a movie, and
Right.
you know the kids don't get it, but you're like,
No.
damn. So I don't know where Zootopia 2 goes. Hopefully it addresses another societal issue that we can tackle in a movie about talking animals.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think this does it.
That's
for the
how we end
nonsense
it. That's
portion
how
of
we
the podcast.
started. We should have started with that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That's gonna be the headline: is Toy Story 5 sucks. Disney
all right,
is stupid
listen.
for wanting to make $1 billion. There are a bunch of
3 was
morons.
good, right? 3 was good, no doubt.
3 was my favorite, I think.
I would say when they're in the incinerator, it's a bit heavy. When they just they all look in each other's eyes and they're like, "This is
We're
where we
gonna
melt
die."
and die."
Yep.
And it's like, damn, I mean, don't need that in Toy Story 3. So I thought in Toy Story 4 there was a good finality to it.
There was.
I don't know how you come back from finality.
I don't know where they go from there. I don't know.
This is a good Toy Story podcast. We should just switch to Toy Story chat. The football season's over. We'll do a movie a week. That'll
Yep.
get us through the month.
We'll go through the entire Pixar catalog. The entire Toy Story catalog. Yeah, that's all we need to do.
I had
Toy
to
Story
watch
2, kind of trash. Toy Story
I had to
1,
watch that in college I took a class. It was like collecting. It was it was like a 400. It was
Where'd you go to college?
I shouldn't say for the sake of this university. I went to Roger Williams University.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know. It was like collecting ourselves. It was about collecting, and that movie was about collectors. Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
Bad movie, I think.
It's not great. It was, I think the story goes that it was like supposed to be a direct to video, like a Return of Jafar type situation.
Gotcha.
And then they were like, wait a second. If we put this
Money.
in theaters, we'd make more money.
Yeah.
And they probably made a lot of money off of it. But no, that one wasn't as good.
No.
But Toy Story 1, 3, I wasn't as into 4. But
I loved 4. I thought 4 was, mwah. But To each his own.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening
Next.
to Toy Story Chat. Speaking of Disney, I'm taking the family to Disney World for the next few days. So
When are you going?
Tomorrow.
What time?
My flight's around like 5:30ish, somewhere around there.
So you don't have to wake up.
So see me at the airport. No, Olivia's gonna go to school, and then we're gonna take her straight
Does
to the
she know?
airport.
Does she know?
Yes, she knows. She's
That would have been
excited.
devious.
Yeah, I don't. It's like we could have pulled it off because 5-year-olds are still like pretty clueless.
Sure.
I don't think she would have been like, "Why is there a suitcase out?"
Right. Could I come, because I think it's important we keep the podcast up, and we'll do it from like Magic Kingdom.
We'll do Toy Story from our resort hotel. Toy Story
Yes.
Chat. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Why not?
All right.
Just,
well, yeah. So I think the Past Chat podcast takes a few days off here. And
I think
we'll regroup.
We'll be back. So this is gonna come out on Sunday night / Monday morning, and the next episode will be a week from now. I think.
Yeah.
We'll just take one show off. We'll take the normal Thursday night / Friday episode off.
I might do a solo job on Pixar movies in general and what they say about society. So we'll be all right.
I'll do. You'll revisit your collecting class.
That was a garbage class. That was a tough one.
All right. Well, follow us on Twitter. Do all that cool stuff. Like I said, rate, review, subscribe. A lot of you guys do listen till the end, and I apologize for that. It's really tough for you guys.
No one's more embarrassed about it than us.
All right. Bye.